Knowing who you are. There's a story told of a guy who was very rich and he made his money because he had this very, very successful company. And he was a very private man, and he had a son. And it was his goal for his son to take over the business someday. And because he was so private, like he really wanted to protect his personal life, people didn't even know actually that he had a son. But when his son had finished school, you know, I told him, okay, son, now is your time to kind of intern in the company. And the son had known for many, many years that he would eventually take over the business. And he said to him, son, like, you have everything you need to take over my business. You have all the skills and the attitudes and the knowledge, but now you need the experience. And I want you to work in the company, and I want you to work from the ground up. I want you to start in the mailroom and um, and then grow from there. And you have everything you need to ascend, but you need to work and you need to show people your stuff. And if you're going to leave the company, I want you to have experience in a lot of key areas in the company. Anyway, so the son starts in the mailroom and he's so looking forward to his future. But he's kind of get bored pretty quickly because he's a bright lad. And, he's like, he applies for promotion, but like he doesn't get the job, you know, because the people at the next level have more experience and he's kind of frustrated. He's like, gosh, my dad, owns the company. And he would tell his dad, say, Dad, this is crazy. Like, you know, um, I just feel like, telling them, that um, you're the boss. And, um, and his dad says, well, son, first of all, I'm not sure that they're even going to believe you. But that's not how I want this done. I want you to go through and I want you to learn and I want you to compete. I will teach you. I will give you wisdom. I'll give you the tricks and all that. You've got my full backing, but I need you to kind of go through this and to build those relationships with people and kind of understand, what they go through it, at the different levels and the different departments. And so he does that. So he has to wait patiently, and then he eventually wins the competition, and he continues to ascend. And there's times where at different levels he's trying to influence the direction of the company, and he knows sometimes that the direction that the company's going isn't exactly what his dad wants, you know. And so, but he can't play that card because people aren't going to believe him anyway, and his dad doesn't want his personal life revealed, and neither does he want the son's identity to be revealed because he wants he wants his son to build credibility based on the skills and the attitudes and knowledge that he has. But at the same time, the father is helping the son navigate through the organization. So the father continues to give him wisdom, things like, son, like, if you want to move this forward, like you can have a great idea, but you need to get buy-in. You need to understand where people are at, and you need to be happy about it. And maybe if you know, you would be maybe more happy, and maybe you'd be more free in your role, not so like wound up. You'd be more chill if you lean on the fact that you're going to take over someday. What if you could just lean on that, trust in that? Then you'd be way more chill. You're probably going to win people over more. You're going to probably spend less time about navigating and more time asking people. Anyway, so the son continues to navigate, his way through the organization, and following, this wisdom that his father gives him. He really does start to ascend, and people really see his leadership, And they're like, wow, like they can really see, it's like, wow, this guy has a great future, and people are starting to recognize his giftedness. And even some are saying, wow, he leads a lot like the current, CEO. I don't know. He kind of says a lot of things that our CEO says, but he says it in his own way. It's not just like in a way that's just kind of like whatever, patronizing or being political, but he just really seems to have excellent judgment like the CEO. And then eventually when the CEO decides to retire and the board of directors are kind of selecting the successor, the choice was like super super clear. And then the son eventually takes over as CEO, and he is beloved by the company. So that's kind of a modern day metaphor for how God wants to work in our lives. God has this amazing plan, and that because we are his daughters and his sons, right? It's because of who we know, not what we have only, but it's because of who we know, that we have impact, that we bear fruit. And there'll be a lot of times where only we will know the great, the great path forward. Only we will know the great destiny. Others may not recognize it, but God recognizes it, and we can recognize it as we lean on our identity, that understanding who we are depends on understanding whose we are. So in this series of talks, we want to try and have you come into a real spiritual and philosophical sense of your identity. This is like super important. This is the basis for experiencing our identity. But then we also want to talk about how can you experience who you are. In Christian parlance, we often talk about, our identity as sons and daughters, and we claim that and talk about that. But do we really experience it? Do we really think like daughters? Do we really feel like a son? Does it really feel like you're a daughter or a son? Or is it just kind of a pious notion, kind of a cliche we say in Christian culture? Or is it something that we actually experience? So we're going to look at what it means to be a daughter and a son, philosophically, theologically, spiritually. And then we're also going to talk existentially. How should we experience that if we are growing in daughterhood and sonship? What should our experience be?